All right, everybody. Welcome back to Game Week. Marshall has a big game this weekend at Georgia Southern. It's an 8 p.m. ESPNU contest. Here to answer questions about it is Coach Huff. If you don't care, once we get going, if you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll bring you the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Glad you guys are here. Always exciting to see you guys. Coming off a phenomenal homecoming weekend. A lot of great things that went on this weekend for Marshall University, Marshall Athletics, Marshall as a whole. So really appreciate every alumni that made it back. Really appreciate every fan that was here. Every recruit that was here. We had a phenomenal amount of recruits here from the tri-state area and all over the Midwest and Northeast. Some guys from even down south. Really great environment. A lot of things we got to get cleaned up. Excited about this opportunity against a really good opponent. Coach Helton and I have known each other for a while just through coaching, but obviously have gotten closer through being in the same conference and being at Sunbelt Media Days and Sunbelt Coaches Meetings, and a lot of respect for what he's done. A lot of respect for him from afar for a long time in my career, and then obviously getting a chance to meet him. Phenomenal football family, phenomenal football mind. He's done it at the highest level, and you can tell he's built a program there that has really gotten better each year. They're returning a lot of production from last year. You can kind of look; they've kind of taken leaps and bounds in all departments, since he's gotten there. So it's going to be a challenge down there on Saturday night. We got a lot of things to do to get ready from a preparation standpoint on our end to control what we can control. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
When you evaluate what you guys were able to do well, do you have a plan to use both quarterbacks this week? Or, how are you approaching that, not only this week but the rest of the year as well after what Braylon did?
Yeah, I think it's always a plan. Without getting too preparation, tipping my hat. We've always planned to do that, unless one of them is unavailable due to, the physical. But every game we've always planned to do that, and it doesn't always go as planned. Meaning, sometimes you get in sometimes you get in the games and the other guy is in a groove and the offense is moving. It's efficient. You would look like a bad head coach if I'd have went, and said, okay, Braylon, you got 4 touchdowns. Hey, come out, Stone, you're in. And all of a sudden, things don't go the way you think they should go. So you kind of it's kind of like you go with what pitch is working. We have a plan each week based on field zone. We have a plan each week based on scheme and what we're trying to do. We have a plan each week based on the reaction from the defense on certain things. But Coach Daggy says to the offense all the time, we're going to do what's working. We told the wideouts back in camp, there may be a game where you block more than you get to run routes. There may be a game where you don't ever block and we ask you to catch, 20, 30 balls because that's what the defense is telling us we need to do. So there's always a plan. We kind of go by. We have a plan. We meet on, the beginning of the week. We have a plan. It's what we like to do. We get in the game. We kind of see, I think a lot that goes into preparation. They're preparing too. So they had a bye week. So we're expecting something a little different. We're expecting a wrinkle or, an improvement on the area that we may see as, hey, this is an area we can attack. They may have seen that as an area they need to strengthen. So we kind of react to how the flow of the game is going. And probably more of how the flow of the offense is going. And then there's the other part of it is it's not little league, so it's not like, hey, Johnny, go try it. We know the deficiencies of each guy. We know what each guy does well. What each guy gives us. So sometimes even the guy who's got the hot hand or the guy who's in, maybe he's not doing well, but going to the other guy is not going to fix the problem sometimes, if that makes sense. You can't just say, if we'd have started Braylon against Ohio State, I don't know if he'd have ran around that effectively, if that makes sense. So there's always a plan. There's always adjustments. And now what I think we've done a really good job of on offense especially is we're minimizing our deficiencies. We know what our deficiencies are. We know what our strengths are. We're minimizing those. Some of it through scheme, some of it through efficiency. We weren't good in last year. We weren't good on third down. Well, a good chunk of those were third and +8. It's going to be tough to do that. It's going to be tough to be great at third and +8. So we've been a lot more efficient on first and second down, so that way we stayed out of some of those. A big piece that shows up, knock on wood, we're not committing as many penalties. So now you're not in first and 20. You're not in first and 15. That affects third down. So there are some things that we're doing that we plan to do to kind of, mask our deficiencies to allow us to have, steady drives, if that makes sense.
Coach, what do you see from their quarterback, French? What does he do well? What stands out about him? And how do you contain a guy like that?
Yeah, I think he's got a really good feel for the system. You can tell he is understanding what they're trying to get accomplished. He doesn't hold on to the ball long. He doesn't force the ball. You look at the improvement they made. Last year they were up numbers in interceptions. This year they're way down. They're up way in efficiency. I think he does deliver the ball, get it out of his hand quickly, makes it hard to get to. He understands the system they're trying to run, where he's looking at the right guy. He gets off the read quickly, gets to the next read. And then I think he's tough, because he will pull it down and run. He probably runs better than you think or you'd like him to, as on the other side. So that's always a viable option. You could cover everybody, he could take off and still make an efficient play. So I think he's kind of what makes their offense go. A lot of people around him are making plays, but he's keeping them in efficient situations. He's not taking a lot of sacks. He's not throwing the ball to the other team a lot, which is keeping them on the field. And I think that's a big piece of what they've been able to do offensively.
Coach, nighttime conference game, national TV. They got some whiteout going. It's going to be a great atmosphere. In many ways, isn't that better than if just no one's at the stadium? You kind of like it better that way when they're jacked up.
I think again the Sun Belt Conference is a very competitive league with a lot of passionate fan bases. They are a big part of the game day experience. But if you go into any of these games thinking because there's nobody here or there are people here that's going to affect how the team on the field plays, you're probably going to be in for a long night. I think our guys have gotten to the point based on, I think our schedule helped us. We've played in some really good environments. We've been to some really massive places. We've been to some loud environments. So I think that helps, kind of going down the road. I expect it to be unbelievable. I know their fan base does a really good job. I know a lot of our fans will travel down just because of the history and tradition between this region. Hopefully our guys are more focused on what's on the field rather than how many white shirts are in the stands. But I think, again, it just shows where the Sun Belt Conference is going from a fan impact standpoint. There's not a lot of Group of 5 schools or conferences that are having the fan backing continuously for multiple reasons. And I think the Sun Belt, obviously, you look at our crowd that was here last weekend, phenomenal. And it's down, attendance is down across the country because there's so many other things to do. You can sit at home and watch 12 games instead of watching one. So when you talk about a conference in schools that consistently have these type of environments, you can't take them for granted as a player or a coach.
When you look at the wide receiver room, lots of guys have stepped up. Obviously Metcalf goes down before halftime last Saturday. Is there an update on him? And then just what have you seen from the other guys stepping up in their place?
No, there's no update on him. We're more of a walkthrough operation on Monday, so it really. I mean, if you looked out there Monday, you wouldn't think anybody was going to play. But it's more of a, kind of get them out and get them moving base stuff. So we'll know more today because today's our kind of, I won't say, full scrimmage. But today's our, more tempoed practice. We'll know more today. I think, again, we talked about it back in the summer. And I said that I felt that the wide receiver room was probably the most competitive room we had, position group-wise. There's a lot of guys in there that haven't even tapped their potential or their opportunities, and that's the other part that happens. Sometimes when a guy does go down, like Metcalf went down, it gave some other guys opportunity. Chuck Montgomery got an opportunity in the second half because of a guy not being there. So I think again it's good because that room is probably the most the deepest room we have as far as talent. It's going to give some guys some opportunities, and we're getting to that point where we got to start tapping into more guys who can help, because you can't have the same, 4 wide receivers play every play. So the ability for us to have some depth in that room is comforting, and the ability for us to be at a point to where offensively, I'm not going to say we're the same, but we're really consistent with what we're doing. We're moving some things around, but we're not truly reinstalling a game plan every week. So it gives those guys a chance that maybe didn't get a ton of reps, early in the season to get some opportunities.
What do you like about their running backs? They got a couple in the backfield. Are they complementary of each other? Do they do something different in situational, conditions? What do you see from them?
Yeah, no, I think honestly, they're a little bit like we are. They've got 2, 3, in my opinion, really good running backs. And they all do everything really well, so it's not like, hey, this guy's in and he's the pass catcher, or this guy's in and he's the short yardage guy, or this guy's in and he's the, the inside zone runner. All of them do a really good job. They run behind their pads. They break a lot of tackles. I'm a big leaky yard guy. These guys will fall forward for 2 and 3 and 4 extra yards. They're both competitive in the pass game. Sometimes the quarterback will step up. It's not there. He'll find the check down. They'll make some explosive plays. And I think they got really good size. So they're not the small kind of scat backs. They got good size. They can run behind their pads. White's 6'1", 225. That's a lot. You got to gang tackle him. You can't just, throw your shoulder in there. So I like the room's makeup because you can't really say when this guy's in, they run these plays, or when that guy's in, they run these plays. So it makes it difficult from a defensive strategy position to say, okay, hey, this back's in, expect sprint out. This back's in, expect inside zone, or this back's in, this is going to be an outside run. They all kind of complement each other and the scheme, and it makes it really difficult to kind of game plan based on who's in and who's not.
Coach, with the way you kind of move guys around, and especially Saturday with Braylon, and then Chuck comes in, you always emphasize when it's your turn, perform. There's sort of a sense of urgency now for these guys, right? Because like you have so much, when you have a lot of depth, you gotta take your opportunity when you get it, right?
Yeah, I think Braylon is probably the example of what a coach. Coach speak really is, about, hey, you got to be ready for your opportunity. When you get your opportunity, you got to do something with it. Braylon every week, again, because every week we've said, hey, we got a plan. We're going to play both of you. This is your area, or this is your, series, or this is your, kind of situation where you're going in. And it hadn't happened for him, for a few weeks for whatever reason. But if you ever watch all the way back, he's the first one out there when the defense makes a play. He's the first one out there when another offensive guy makes a play. He's the first one in the building. He's unbelievable at practice. He's a great teammate. I think when you have that type of mentality, when your opportunity comes, you're more likely to be ready. Rather than sour grapes, they're screwing me, I should be playing, I can do that. If I was in, I would have did that. What that does is it puts your mind in such a negative place. It puts your mind in looking at things you can't control. Braylon, from game one, when we told him, hey, we're going to go with Stone and you're going to play, from game one, he said, okay, bet, and prepared as if he was going to play. And his attitude said, I'm ready. His attitude and his camaraderie with his teammates said, I'm ready. I'm going to be either the starting quarterback or I'm going to be the best teammate. Either way, I'm going to be the best at whatever my role is. And as a coach, that's what you kind of preach. No one, I tell guys in the locker room, look, none of y'all are good enough for us to try and screw. Like, none of y'all are like, okay, we can't play him because he's so good. No, that's not how it works. It's obviously there's a scheme involved. A lot of it comes from practice habits. I think that's where, sometimes I look like an idiot because they're like, well, why don't you play this guy? I've been at practice with these guys since January. Trust me, if I felt like that guy that's standing over here with me could go in there and do better, he would have already been in there. But those are the things that sometimes the kids don't understand. It's not just, hey, on game day I'm ready. Well, I watched you in practice, do it wrong 4 times, or I watched you in practice not do it right. So it's hard for me to stand in front of the rest of the team who watched you at practice, not do it right or miss an opportunity, and to throw you in there and just think that, oh, it's going to happen. But we tell them all the time, if you want to create value for yourself and you want to put the coaches in a tough situation, well, how do we play more guys? You got to practice well. And I'll be honest, we've had some really, really, really intentional practices over the last couple of weeks, and I think you're starting to see it. You're starting to see guys who maybe didn't show up in week 1 or 2 who are now showing up. That doesn't mean in week 1 or 2 we didn't have good practices, but it's a compilation. You know, it's 1 week good, next week good, next week good. Now you're building those habits to go out and perform. So I think that's what's starting to happen. I think every kid in our locker room knows if I want to play, I got to practice well. And as a coach, that's what you want. They know I play good players. I don't care if you're white, black, green, from the South, from the North, from fifth-year senior transfer. It doesn't matter. I tell them I am a good player, prejudiced person. That's what I am. Yes, I play good players. And I'll tell you. And if you're not a good player, it's my job as a coach and the rest of these coaches to tell you what you need to do to improve. And I think our players respect that. I think our players appreciate that. And it's easy for a player to look at another player who's in the same situation and say, okay, well, coach is treating us both the same. He wants you to improve in practice. He wants me to improve in practice, or I got to get stronger, or I got to practice with better detail. Maybe, we have some guys that go out there and practice really, really hard. But the route's at 8 and you're running it at 7. That's the difference in the game of an incomplete pass or an interception or a turnover. Or you're practicing really, really hard, but you're not in the A gap. Well, that doesn't get it done. You got to put the two together, great effort and great execution. So I think that's one of the things that we have in our culture right now, and is accountability. I think everybody feels like I have a chance. I know what I need to do to get on the field. I know once I'm on the field what I need to do to stay there.
How about a guy like Jacoby Henderson? Has done some really good things, but I thought maybe his biggest play Saturday came on that first drive. They took a deep shot, he breaks it up, and that kind of set the tone. But what have you seen from him as far as growth as he kind of takes on a bigger role in that secondary?
Yeah, phenomenal. One of the things that we feel like we have to get better at is playing the ball in the deep part of the field. We gave some opportunities away by creating penalties, a few missed interception opportunities. But Jacoby's phenomenal. It's crazy. So Jacoby last week says, Coach, can I come meet with you? Sure. So I'm thinking, okay, my girlfriend broke up with me. I'm going in the portal. I don't like life. And where's the ice cream? It's got to be something, right? Because this is what these kids come up with. So I'm like, sure. He's like, Coach, I want to start watching film with you. I'm like, okay, great. So all last week, he and I watched film. And all he wanted to know, obviously Coach Baker does a phenomenal job from the DB perspective. All he wanted to know was, from an offensive perspective, what does this mean? What is the offensive thinking? What is the offensive side thinking? What is the receiver thinking? So that he had both sides. Obviously, the thing that we run into, a lot of people don't understand, or maybe don't think about it, 95% of our kids now only play one way in high school. So there are no two-way players. Back when I played, you played O-line, D-line, or you played running back, linebacker, or you played wide-out DB. In high school now, maybe a small percentage. So they don't get the teaching both sides. They see it always from one side. They get on these 7-on-7 teams, and I'm just a DB. And defensively, people think differently than offensively. So he came in every day last week for about 30, 45 minutes, and we just watched practice, we watched film, and hey, what are the refs going to call? What are the refs looking for? What is the official looking for on this? What's going to be considered a pass interference? Because no DB has ever had a PI. He's never, no DB, ever. And every wide receiver, every time he doesn't catch the ball, he's pass interfered with. So, and we talked like 30, 45 minutes, and I'd show him film, hey, this is what the receiver's thinking, this is why he's lined up here. And what it did was it blended basically the same thing that Coach Baker was saying in a different tone, because it was coming from the offensive side. But now that carryover of that full understanding of, okay, this is, what the offense is thinking, this is where my hands can't go, this is where my hands can't go. So when he got the big play downfield, because he'd been the one guy on our chart that if you were going to target a guy downfield, he was the one. He got hit on one in Stony Brook. He got hit on one at Virginia Tech. So I told him, I said, this is what you got to do. This is how you got to play. You know, we always talk about you got to have poise in the back end. Ball goes in the air, you don't have to panic. So after the play, I told him, I said, man, you probably should come meet with me again next week. He was like, yeah. And then after the pick, I was like, no, don't come meet with me because now I'm going to have to charge you. Because now I've actually, really got you some value. But no, it's really good to see, and that's the way our guys are. If you ever come through our building, there's guys in coaches' offices all the time on each side of the ball asking questions. And that's not saying that, well, Coach Bake's not coaching them. No, Coach Bake put them in position as far as the technique, alignment. But to hear it from a different side, it's kind of like, mom says one thing and dad says another, and you kind of got to hear it different ways. What it did was it just validated and gave the kid confidence. And then that's all 90% of playing any position is confidence, validation that what I believe, what's going to happen. So I was really excited for him.
When you look at this team on defense, first thing you can look at the stats and go, wow, they give up a lot of yards. What do they look like on film, and what does the film tell you about what kind of defense they are, and maybe where are some of the yards coming from that they're giving up?
Yeah, they're a little bit like us. I mean, if you look at us, you'd be like, wow, they give up a lot of yards. Half a ton of those were made up in Columbus. So there's a lot. I'm not a big stats guy until we really get into conference play, because I understand if I look at the stats and then I say, well, throw out this game, we'll throw out that game, well, the stats become irrelevant at this point. But when I put the film on, they're stout inside. This will probably be the biggest defensive line we play. Their backers are probably the biggest, thickest group of backers that we'll play. And their scheme allows their DBs to be a lot more active in the box than we've seen in the past. And I told the running backs earlier in the week, their DBs or safeties get down in there fast. So some of these runs that may have spit out earlier in the season, you're going to have a plan for a DB showing up fast that we may or may not be able to dig out. So I think, again, their scheme does a really good job. When they get to third down, they have a legitimate third down blitz package that really stresses you, because it's not the same, high school blitz, bring two off the edge, bring one off the edge. Their defensive coordinator does a really good job of blitz patterning, things each week to kind of break down your protections. That's when you really have a good defensive coordinator, when he's not just saying, okay, I'm going to call this blitz because I like this blitz, but this blitz breaks down this protection that you use 60, 70, 80% on third down or whatever it may be. They do a really good job of that. And then I also think they tackle well. You watch them run to the ball. You watch them punch at the ball, strip at the ball. They do the good things fundamentally that a good defense does. So I don't really look at the stats. I think they're better than their stats. I think we're better than our stats. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of put the film on.
You've talked about the ability to limit turnovers, and you can knock on wood before you answer this question if you want to. What do you attribute that to? You've talked about being efficient on offense, but is there something else to that?
Yeah, well, first, if we turn it over, it's your fault Saturday because you brought it up.
I accept it.
So everyone go ahead and, DM Luke and tell him that he messed it up. No, I think, we're being a lot more efficient with what we're doing with the ball. When I say that, meaning our throws are not into bad coverages. Our throws are not into double coverage, which means Coach Deggy's doing a great job from a quarterback coach position of here's your read pre-snap, here's your read post-snap, make a decision or move on. I think scheme-wise, we're putting our quarterbacks and players in position where they don't have to make 2 and 3 decisions. It's pre-snap read, post-snap read, ball here or move on. I think also our players, our quarterbacks are doing a good job of not forcing the ball. You talk about some of the things that separate, quarterbacks. Everybody can stand back there and throw. The timing of it is really crucial. One, getting the ball out of your hands quickly, being able to make a quick decision, getting it out of your hands. One, that means you're seeing what you see. And 2, you're eliminating opportunity for a sack. Well, that's a sack fumble that could possibly happen. So when a quarterback holds the ball long, the longer I hold on to it, the more time I'm giving the defense to react. I may see it happen, clearer, but so are they. They understand the route combinations and matching patterns too. And then I think our guys are doing a better job of it being intentional about taking care of it. We talk about it all the time on the sideline, and you say, well, wouldn't you do that every time? Yeah. But I think, again, our guys are being a lot more intentional about, taking care of the ball. So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think we've been in must-pass situations a lot. That's where, the one we threw at Virginia Tech was a must-pass situation. Everybody in the stadium knows you're throwing the ball, so now, DBs and DNs are like, here we go. So we've been in a lot of manageable situations where we've been able to throw it or run it. It keeps people off balance. You start getting into a bunch of 3rd and 20s, 3rd and 15s, 3rd and 12s. It's not many options. Even 3rd and 8, it's not many options. So being able to be efficient, I think, has helped. Being able to stay kind of in a rhythm has helped. When I say in a rhythm, you can run it, you can pass it, there's balance. And then I think scheme-wise, Coach Daigie's doing a good job of really minimizing our deficiencies. I use that word a lot because I know each guy on this team's deficiency, so we try not to put them in situations to get exposed. I think that's good coaching. If you got a punter that can't kick to the left, don't kick to the left. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. We have to kick. You got to hide their deficiencies. However, and sometimes hiding their deficiencies or masking their deficiencies may put you in a very compromising situation. But it's better to be in a compromising situation than ask a kid to do something he can't do. I don't think that's good coaching, in my opinion.
All righty. Thank you, Coach.
Good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody. Hope you guys travel safe down to Statesboro. Again, thoughts and prayers out with the hurricane that's coming through Florida here in the next couple of days. We got a lot of guys on the team from that area, so with a lot of family members down there. So we'll be praying for them and their safety as well. Thanks, guys. Go Herd.